It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show for Friday, January 24th, 2025. This is the B block, which means we start this one at about 7:20. We're a couple minutes late on this one. I can't find it. It's so funny, John. I can't find the thing. Maybe if next break I'll find it. We're talking about the Jim Acosta quote where he's in front of one of the congressmen and the congressman makes a shot at him. And, you know, have you seen, do you follow much of this stuff, media news? Do you follow much of this stuff?
No, unless I see it like on X, if I happen to be scrolling, I usually don't see it.
They're doing supposedly a reboot of CNN where just the other day they laid off 200 people, and Acosta's show, I believe, was on like 11 o'clock in the morning. They took his show off, and he's going to be like at midnight or something like that. The other thing that gets me about this is, and if you hear this Acosta quote, you would think that the media people, for the most part, the MSNBCs of the world and the CNNs of the world, still think they're as relevant as they once were. And what's sort of interesting about this is during the cable era, where you had your cable TV and you had the package, and I don't know if you know this or not, but there were certain packages, certain channels that were mandated. You could not get a cable channel or a satellite channel, a satellite package without ESPN. That's how ESPN.
I didn't know that. Are you serious?
Oh yeah. That was mandatory. You had to because that was the deal. That if you know the whole crazy thing, I had a friend of mine that worked in this industry that they were repping shows to be on cable networks, and that's what he did. He flew around the country and he pitched different cable operators and satellite providers. Oh, this is why you should have our channel on your thing, and on cable. Every single channel that was on there, that's why like the CNNs and the MSNBCs of the world are having problems because of the fact that they get a payment. They get a per subscriber payment. So in other words, when you were paying, like let's say you were paying $52 a month to Spectrum or whoever, there was like 85 cents of that went to ESPN and 25 cents of that went to the History Channel and stuff like that. And now it's to the point where they're not seeing that revenue. They're doing the streaming thing, and that's why everybody's having issues because of the fact that the revenue model has been sort of blown up, and it's not necessarily working for some of the players. Like, it worked for Netflix because they were early in, but some of the other ones that have got in behind it. Remember the ill-fated CNN Plus would lasted like what, a week or something like that?
Yeah, very short period of time. I do remember that.
Right, and essentially what they realized that when they decided to go with CNN Plus, they were going to get X amount of revenue from the cable channels, and it was going to be an upsell and things like that. And they realized that market had essentially disappeared. It wasn't there anymore. So they go, okay, we're just going to pull the plug. They lost like $150 million on that. Remember they hired Chris, what was his name?
Chris Hayes?
No.
Cuomo. Chris Cuomo.
No.
You could say that. Chris who?
Chris from Chris Wallace. They hired Chris Wallace, and they hired a bunch of high-profile people. They hired Audie Cornish from NPR. Audie Cornish was going to do her own show on CNN Plus, and it lasted like
exciting.
A week. Right.
That's gonna put butts in seats.
Is anybody exciting on NPR except for, and you know what? I can never remember the name of this show. You're going to make fun of me because I'm an old guy, and it's
called Planet Money.
No, I got the Joe Biden disease. It's on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Whose line is it? Or wait, don't tell me. That's what it is. Wait, don't tell me.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, okay. Rosenbaum was on that show like a decade ago.
Rosenbaum was?
Yeah. He had an appearance on. I forgot the circumstance, but he was on there, and I'll Google it real quick. I might text him and see.
As a guest, or did he play one of the games?
Yeah, he was a contestant, I believe.
Oh, really? Well, see, to me, that kind of programming is interesting. If you go way back when, I don't know how many people I turned on to Car Talk. Remember Car Talk with Maliazzi Brothers?
Oh, I do remember that, Clack? Yeah.
And I turned on people who could care less about cars, and I'd say, you got to listen to Car Talk. And they go, I'm not a car guy. Matter of fact, a couple women I knew, you got to listen to this. And they go, why would I want to listen to somebody talk about cars? I go, these two guys, it's like a facade that they talk about cars. They do talk about cars, but it's funny stuff. And it's two brothers, the whole story, and one of the brothers has passed away, which is sort of sad. They actually for a long time, they ran a syndicated a newspaper column that was in the Post-Dispatch. Remember that?
Do remember that? Yeah. I remember Car Talk was a syndicated column.
But see, here's the interesting thing. Already, the CNNs of the world are being made fun of. The MSNBCs are being made fun of. The NPRs are being made fun of by the Democrats. When we had Serpent who essentially said the problem with one of the reasons that the Democrats lost, that Kamala lost, was that she was using, or the Dems were using NPR jargon. What does that tell you when one of their own starts making fun of NPR to the point where it's like, you and I, we could say, here, let's go into NPR mode. Good morning, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brad. Friday is a day of intersectionality because the weekdays meet the weekends. And it reminds me of our next guest. She combines disabled American activism with Native American sensibility. Here with her divining rod is Sister Knight Pocahontas Warren. You might know her from the U.S. Senate.
I understand she's a recovering transgender, bisexual, queer person. Is that correct?
She's also a twin flame, Brad. Without further ado, Pocahontas.
But is she a 2S? Is she a two-spirit? is that's the most important thing. If she's claiming a native heritage, does she have that two-spirit aspect in her life, John?
She mostly identifies as the certain type of boomer named as a B5. You'll remember under the Hildebrand Law of 2025, that means she's a boomer born in the 50s. Doge, I think, is going to pick up on your nomenclature there, Brad. I just texted Elon and I asked him if he could start doing the B5
John,
thing.
Think about it. How easy could it be? And let's just take the B's out of it. Let's just say, okay, you would be, what year were you born?
77.
Okay, you're a 197. Instead of being
that makes sense.
You're a 197, and people know, he was born in the 70s. And if someone's born, in 2005, they'd be a 205. Someone, like my one son, he was born in 1984. He'd be a 184, right? People go, okay, he's born in 1984. 194 or no 198. He'd be a 198. So he's born in 1998 or 1994, or in the 1990s. You know what I'm saying? It makes things simple. See, it's interesting because of the fact that there's so many things that are simplistic which stick. Like, for example, if you go to McDonald's and you say supersize, they don't do that anymore, but you know what that meant. You got the big fries and the big drink, right?
Yeah.
Real simple. You go to some of these places, it's like, okay, I don't understand the menu. I'm a fast food junkie. If I don't understand the menu, there's something wrong. You know what I mean? Just one of those things. Okay. Talking about that, there's an article I read this morning doing some show prep for the show that Kamala Harris has had many, many, many conversations, most of them on the phone, some of them texting, some of them even Zoom. Guess who?
With Elon Musk.
Hillary Clinton. And
wow. So is it kind of a shared licking our wounds type of thing?
Right. The idea being that Hillary Clinton is supporting Kamala because she's gone through the same thing. She lost to Trump. And the fact that she lost, but even worse that she lost to Trump, so it'd be one thing if you lost to Marco Rubio or something like that. But if you lose to Trump, that's like if you were a golfer and you were a pretty good golfer and you're like you're in your 30s and some dude comes along and say, hey, I'll bet you $100 a hole I can beat you, and the guy's like 80 years old and he whacks your butt because of the fact that he's like, a retired professional golfer, and at 80 he's still hitting the ball, way the hell out. Just like if you've ever seen Trump play golf, you ever seen him? He's got sort of an awkward swing, but man,
he does.
He can hit the ball. I mean, he can drive that ball. I mean, and what's he pushing 80 or stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so. And recently, I forgot if it was Reardon or Pete Mundo. Somebody asked Eric Schmidt, because Eric Schmidt has played golf with Donald Trump more than a handful of times. And Schmidt noted, choosing his words carefully, that Trump has a unique swing, but that he has a hell of a swing, that he really drives the ball. And I'm not a golfer, so I wouldn't be able to assess it. But exactly what you said, Brad. It's an unconventional swing.
He doesn't have the classic swing. He doesn't have, if you watch any of these golf videos, they show you do this, weight transfer, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't do that, but, he can hit the ball. It's just like there's some athletes, you watch, there's some batters that have sort of a weird swing, but yet they're still very effective at that. You're a baseball guy. Who's the guy that was known for he never hit the long ball, but he was like Mr. Single, Mr. Double. He had sort of an easy swing, and he just sort of like poke at the ball. You know what I'm talking about? It was.
I can't think of who. I can't think of who that might be.
But once again, he had an unconventional. I mean, look at some of the pitchers. I mean, remember who was the crazy guy that that they called Fernando Venezuela.
Yeah,
remember?
AKA Fernando Valenzuela. Yes, they did not name a country after him. He is not Venezuela, but he's Valenzuela.
Well, but he had a very unique pitching style, and it worked for him. It's just like us.
Yeah.
I mean, like John is a very unique style of doing the show with me, and it works for John. You know what
I'm saying? That's a charitable way to put it, Brad.
Okay, so you think that Hillary is coach? See, there's some people that are saying that Hillary is coaching. She's coaching Kamala for a reprieve at the president. Do you think the Democrats would ever do that again? Do you think they would put her on the ballot for the president?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think she was unpopular enough among Democrats when she ran this time, and I don't think they put her on there. I think it has more to do with the fact if you were to go up around, I don't know, Powder Shell or maybe Newhall's Ferry in the late 60s or in the 70s, Brad, and you had a couple of your ex-girlfriends ran into each other at, the location that came to be known as Kenrod's or wherever, and they sat down and they commiserated about how mean Brad was to them and how selfish Brad was. I think sometimes gals like Hillary and Kamala just want to sit down and commiserate about how that mean guy broke their heart. Whether it's Brad Hildebrand off of Newhall's Ferry Road or if it's, Hillary and Kamala somewhere in D.C. commiserating about it.
All my girlfriends were on Charbonneir, by the way. I didn't have anybody.
Oh, what a great road. By the way, Brad, I have been corrected. I will not list my source, but you can probably deduce it yourself. Jason Rosenbaum was not on Wait, Don't Tell Me. He was on another NPR show called Whad'Ya Know? Do you remember that show?
I don't. Who is?
It was. I just Wikipedia'd it, and it was on NPR from 1985 to 2016, and it was another one of those like wacky. It was almost like a variety show.
Who corrected you?
No one corrected me. I sent a text to someone, and I said, "Hey, is that my senility, or was someone on this show?" And then someone who I'm not going to say who I'm texting, but
Sean,
yeah, Rosenbaum was actually on a different NPR show.
John will never give away sources. That's the thing with John. John's like, you want to have a secret that doesn't get revealed? Just tell John. No, don't tell anybody, John. And John, whoa, you've got my word for it. I'm not telling anybody, right?
You know what? I don't. That way, people know, Brad. Anybody that texts me about anything or talks to me about anything, that I never mention it to anybody.
Okay. John makes fun of me, and he hasn't made fun of me in a while because I keep track of the Lake Mead levels, okay?
Like a normal person.
Like a normal person, okay? And the reason for this is that this is a perfect example of the news media making stories out of something that really aren't stories, okay? Remember for a while people going, oh my God, Lake Mead's in terrible shape. It keeps dropping in water level, and it's going to get to the point where there won't be any water left for the people in Las Vegas, and the Hoover Dam, the generators will go silent, and things like that, okay? I checked it last night. Don't ask me why I did this, okay? I checked it last night, okay? We're a little bit behind. On this day in 2025, we are matter of fact the pool, the level of Lake Mead was 1,070 feet. We're right now about 1,066 feet, so we're about 4 feet below a year ago today, right? But if you look at where we're at 2 years ago in 2023. The level was 1,042. So right now we are 22 feet above where we were 2 years ago and only about 4 or 5 feet lower than we were a year ago. Okay? But once again, do you see the news media saying, whoa, Lake Mead's up 22 feet over 2 years ago? No, because of the fact all they're doing is they're picking and choosing. Oh, it's global climate change. Lake Mead continues to drop. And the interesting thing is if you go back to the 2021, 2022, 2020 level, we're like 40 or 50 feet higher than that. But yet nobody talks about that because of the fact it's not a news story because it doesn't conform to the global climate change model. Get what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, but wouldn't the level increase if you had global warming and you had more ice flow melt? Where does Lake Mead get its water from?
A lot of it comes from the mountains. A lot of it comes from the snow melt. Typically, they have, if you look at it on a year by year basis, typically the peak is we getting into it in April and May, because that's when a lot of the snow starts to melt from the mountains that feed into the Colorado River. But the interesting part of that is that if you go back to 2023, that was when the lake was at its lowest in April and May. So once again, you could say, well, no, hold on a minute now. That doesn't make any sense because once again, I know I say that too many times. Why did we have my son sending me a picture of 8 3/4 inches of snow in his front yard in Pensacola, Florida? And the global climate change, people go, oh, that's all because of global climate change. That's the example of somebody who could use the same answer for any question. You know what I'm saying?
It's as somebody who grew up in a middle-class family, Kamala Harris agrees, Brad. And also what I love I think the big takeaway here is that Lake Mead, if we were to make this an SAT analogy, Lake Mead is to you what Palm Springs is to Dave Murray, what Pensacola and Yacht Rock is to the world's greatest DJ in St. Louis history, J.C. Corcoran. Brad, Lake Mead is your version of that retirement place that one day you will ride off to, I think.
John, do me a favor. If you ever find out that I'm in a retirement home, I want you to come and I want you to bring a gallon of Drano and I want you to put it into like a bottle that looks like, Mountain Dew or something like that. Hey, Brad, I brought your Mountain Dew. And I want you to make me chug that bottle of Drano so I will leave this earth, because the one thing I do not ever want to do is end up in a retirement home. No, thank you. No way, no how. Just has no interest to me whatsoever. I mean, it's part of my problem right now.
We're way more likely to have your body be found by a coyote hunter in St. Charles County than to be at a retirement home.
Yes, the coyote hunter who saved my life. I got his business card here, so I'll mention that. Okay, we have to take a break.